Hi, everybody. Yes, I am back, and I have an important message for South Africa tonight. All right, so I'm going to jump right into it. 2 weeks ago, I have this dream. This dream absolutely takes me by surprise. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not see this coming. I did not expect it. I did not envision this for our future in South Africa. It caught me by surprise so much that I did not release it immediately either. Okay, it made me that uncomfortable. And I knew that I just needed to get some clarity from the Lord. And I did something I never really do, ever, when getting a prophetic dream from the Lord, is I discussed it with somebody else, somebody I trusted. Um, I knew that they knew a lot about prophecy, and I was wondering, really, I'm going to be honest, I was wondering, has anyone said anything like this before? Um, Never do that, never. But the weight of this word was weighing heavily on me, and I'm sure you can understand in just seeing the heading of this video. All right, so this is not something that I am happy to release. This is hard, but this 2023 seems to have been a year for me where the Lord is having me release really hard things. So I'm going to release it in faith tonight, and I'm going to give you a word from the Lord as well, which gave me a lot of clarity, especially in the last parts of the dream, because I didn't have that clarity. As I share the dream with you, you'll understand. And yes, the Lord has spoken. So let's jump right in. So 2 weeks ago, I have this dream, all right? And in the dream, it's a very straightforward dream. The beginning of the dream until you reach the end, it's very straightforward. I know how the Lord speaks to me. It's prophecy, and as I see it in the dream is exactly how it will happen. And what I see is the streets and the towns and the cities of South Africa. And I notice that suddenly there is the Russian army, the presence of the Russian army. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of these Russian soldiers all over the country. In every town, I'm specifically also shown the highways for some reason. They're everywhere, but they're peaceful. It's like it's not as if war has broken out. Okay, please take note. They're everywhere. They're walking around. It's almost as if they're just there. And we, as the people of South Africa, we're taking notice of them, but we're kind of wondering, well, what are you doing here? But we're going about our normal business. And then I see how it's almost as if the dream moves rapidly now through this, how they suddenly, their intention is changing, and they are taking over peacefully, without bloodshed, without war. I don't see guns being shot. I don't see bombs going off. I don't see any of that. It's as if they just came in. They took occupation, and then suddenly we see how now their presence is being made known. They are in the dream. They are really taking over. And now people in South Africa are becoming more fearful of their presence. And you see how instead of everybody going on their normal business, people are actually really afraid. And they are taking note of this Russian army that is in South Africa. And as I'm watching this play in front of me in the dream, I hear the Holy Spirit speak to me. And he says to me the following. He says, the reason they are doing it, okay, is because they want to beat America. That's what's said to me in the dream. So the intentions, why they're doing this, why they're taking occupation of South Africa, is revealed to me in the dream. It's because America has the same intentions, and Russia wanted to beat them to it, basically. Then the dream moves on, and I see how suddenly, rapidly now, because of their presence, they've made their presence known all over South Africa. They are now lining up the citizens in these long lines. They have now taken over. They've made their intentions known to the South African people. Listen, I don't even see the South African army. I don't see anyone standing up against them. It's the strangest thing. It's like we just get taken over. They just come and they take us over. And then I see how everybody's lined up in these lines and they're marching us off somewhere. Now I see the guns, I see everything, the generals, I see the army just lining up everybody and marching them off somewhere. I don't see where to, but I see that everybody's forced to go somewhere against their will. And I'm in this line and we're walking down while the army is marching us down. And I decide, no, I don't want to do this. There's this big wall. This is now the end of the dream. There's this big wall next to me. And I start scaling this wall, climbing this wall to try and, how can I say, not be detected by these soldiers that are marching the people down somewhere. So I climbed this wall and I managed to escape. And at the top of this hill or whatever, there are more generals sitting at the top of the hill of the Russian army. And I'm trying to hide. I'm trying to just get away. Eventually, I'm spotted. A general, it's specifically in the dream, it's a general that sees me. And in the dream, I'm no longer me, even though it is me. It's strange. I know God does this a lot with me. I am there watching, but the person that I am is not me. I'm a man, okay? And I'm trying to now think of a way to get out of being something done to. I don't know if they're going to kill me or whatever. And I say to the general asks me what I'm doing, and I say to the general, listen, I own a car dealership, and I was just wondering if you're interested in buying my cars. That's what I say to him. And he's very happy. He's happy at this. He wants what I have. He wants to buy this car that I want to sell him. And that's the end of the dream. So you can imagine the last part of the dream was quite something to try and figure out. It is my responsibility to tell you the right thing. So I really had to get some insight from the Lord regarding that last part. And after receiving the word today, I did get that insight. All right. So as I said, the beginning of the dream is very clear. God is showing us that Russia desires to take occupation of South Africa. And the reason being is because America also has its sights on South Africa. Now, before I had the dream, this didn't cross my radar. I didn't read news about it. Nowhere. It came out of nowhere. I didn't think about Russia invading us. I didn't think about even America. So two nations are revealed to me in the dream that desires to take occupation of South Africa. This was new to me. Never heard of this before. All right? So you can understand my anticipation in releasing this prophetic dream. Then I spoke to somebody and they prayed with me and gave me some insight. And the very next day, they sent me a video clip. Now, what they did not know is that I had prayed and asked the Lord for a confirmation of this prophecy. He needed to show me something about Russia or America that confirmed what he was showing me in the dream, and he sure did. The very next day, this person sends me a video about what's going on in America and what they are planning for South Africa. Okay, so I'm going to read you a news article now so that I don't mess it up. This person wrote about, listen, this is in the news, okay, so you don't need to be a prophet to see that this is the truth. It's already in the news. People know it. Okay, I didn't know it until I saw the video. But this is a news article I stumbled upon, I think, yesterday. It was released on the 27th of July, and this person is in our country as we speak, right now. All right. It's on News 24. Its heading is Oscar van Heerden, beware, the regime change stratagem is upon us. Okay, now listen, I'm just going to read the beginning of the article. Stratagems are plans or schemes, especially ones used to outwit an opponent or achieve an end. A series of devious stratagems is the name of an artwork, but is this what infamous warmonger, listen, this is so important, U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland has in mind when she visits our beloved country, okay, next month. All right, so she is now here, apparently. This week, she's visiting South Africa. Who is this woman? Never heard of her before. I had this dream and all of these events unfolded. Who is this woman? After all, she is well known. Listen, the news article states she is well known, and this is what the guy in the video was saying as well, as the person who prefers diplomatic tactics that are less about talking and more about overthrowing. This allegedly was the case in 2014. Here's her history. When there was a popular uprising of the Ukrainian people against their democratically elected president, resulting in him having to flee the country. Rumors abound. People are saying that Nuland, this woman, who was then Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs, helped orchestrate the uprising. She is a warmonger. The history that follows her shows it. Nuland was a part of the administration of President Bill Clinton when his government invaded Somalia. She was there with the Bush administration when they invaded Iraq and killed Saddam Hussein. And again, she was there when President Barack Obama invaded Libya and killed its leader. This is clearly her forte. So forgive me, says this writer, if I surmise that her well-timed visit, just months away from our next general elections, is hardly coincidental. It is rather apparent to me that the United States government has been wooing, this has been happening, this I have seen in the news, the official opposition party, the DA. Have you noticed the activities of the DA in America recently? Take, for example, Western Cape Premier Alan Wynn's visit to the US, in which he pretended to speak on behalf of the country. Listen, I'm just reading this guy's insight. Without any such mandate, he made remarks way above his pay grade with regards to wanting to arrest President Putin should he set foot in South Africa. I'm sure you saw that. Alan Wynn said that if Putin sets foot in our country, he will arrest him. The leader of the DA undertook an official visit to Ukraine. He even went, the leader went to the Ukraine, made all sorts of statements. Yeah, no doubt these visits to the US also come with a rather generous payload in terms of funding for the DA in preparation for the next general elections. All right, let me skip past a few things here. Okay, so there are already rumors swirling that if we have a repeat of the 2021 July protest action, where massive amounts of people loot, burn, and destroy, this would be the ideal circumstances for a regime change stratagem. Personally, I think the SA populace is not that naive or gullible. All right. According to Foreign Policy magazine, the aim of Victoria's visit is to come and exert pressure on South Africa to re-evaluate its relations with Russia. You see, America is not happy with what South Africa has decided in staying neutral. Well, we say we stay neutral, but we can see that, you know, the ANC is right in there with Russia. In keeping with this sort of pressure, he says in June, a group of American senators urged Biden's administration to reconsider holding the AGOA Trade Summit in South Africa, citing that it could be seen as an endorsement of SA's stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. This highlights the growing apprehensions among some US policymakers regarding SA's perceived alignment with Russia. Then they sent this warmonger to us. All of this is happening. All eyes of the world are on us. And now they have sent Victoria Nuland. This is strategy being implemented on the United States side. All right. This is very, very serious. This was my confirmation. I mean, it wasn't even on my radar that America had an issue with South Africa before I had the dream. And the same day, I'm talking to my husband about this Victoria Nuland and what I'd stumbled on without me even saying much. The Holy Spirit speaks to him and says to him, warlord. He hears the word warlord. And then we read in this article that she's also called a warmonger. All right. So war follows her. It would be safe to say death follows her. All right. Now this is interesting. Listen to what the Holy Spirit has to say. For thus says the Holy Spirit, watch, my children, for trouble is brewing in the waters of this nation. The gaze of the watchers of darkness has turned towards this nation because of the light they have seen brewing in the spirit over this nation. Whenever the light comes, darkness will try to stop it. Do men desire darkness more than the light as they did in the days of old, asks the Spirit of God? For the light has come into the world, yet so many generations still choose the darkness. When will man learn, Rebecca, says the Lord to me? When will they choose the light of my Son and my word above all else? Do they not know that the light of my Son carries the substance of life, eternal life in me? Yet mankind does not know, they do not see, they still choose death. Therefore, says the Spirit of God, death shall fall upon them and bring rulers of death to rule over them. South Africa, rulers of death have turned their gaze towards you. You are in the valley of decision. This is very important. And the heart of this nation must decide if they will follow life or death. Your nation has the opportunity to shake off every chain that has bound its people for generations and become a nation set on a hill, shining gloriously for all the world to see, as a nation chosen by God, led by God, destroying every evil thing in its midst. This is the will of the Father for this nation. Did you know, South Africa, that you must choose? Choose whom you will serve. For the rider of death is standing at the door, waiting to see what you will choose. Things will happen quickly as the nation's decisions become clear. One thing will follow closely upon another, either life and blessing or curse and destruction. You are at a critical time of your destiny, South Africa. Yet many are slumbering. Prophets and watchmen are sleeping, and what is coming will catch many by surprise because they did not understand that the destiny of the nation was at stake. They did not discern this critical time of their history. Germany, says the Spirit of God, will suddenly become a major player in this battle for world dominance. As the Lord speaks to me here, I see a vision. I see a chessboard in front of me, and I see the world leaders sitting around it. I see Putin there. I see the American president. I see the Chinese president. They're all playing this chess game. And there is only one goal of this game, all right? And that is to be the last king standing. For thus says the Spirit of God, world powers are clashing upon the earth, and war and death is brewing in their midst, with Abaddon leading the destruction. Abaddon is the angel of destruction. Just as in the game of chess, so each leader is planning their next move, says the Spirit of God. Anyone who gets in the way of that move, even by mistake, will be taken out. South Africa has placed herself in the pathway of the plans of two major players, America and Russia. Therefore, the race has begun to conquer the nation and add to the winner's dominance over this world. All eyes are now on you, South Africa. Russia will invade if the wrong decision is made by the nation, and no one will be able to stop it. For its leader is a terrible and cruel ruler that follows closely with death. You see, if the nation chooses death, then death will enter in. America has also entered the race to conquer and destroy, as it too is led by a wicked and cruel leader that follows closely with death. As the Lord spoke to me here, I just got the sense of how when we choose, instead of life, we choose death. It's like all of those wicked rulers of darkness, which is death, Abaddon, destruction, all of that, actually starts warring among them to get the victory and conquer when the nation's heart has turned towards evil. And that's why you see so much destruction. That's why everything will come against that nation from all sides. It's like throwing a bone into a field in the middle of a pack of dogs. That's the sense I got as the Lord was speaking. What's going to happen? They're going to fight over that bone, of course. The Lord says, South Africa, for many years I have warned you and sent my prophets and watchmen, yet few heed the warnings or listen to my servants. Choose this day whom you shall follow, for the darkness hastens to overcome this nation, yet the darkness has nothing on me, says the Lord. I am able to drive the darkness far from you, if only you would choose life. What is that life? That is Jesus Christ and no other. That's the end of the word. Then I realized the Lord gave me understanding of the last part of my dream. In the dream, I was trying to escape. It's metaphorically showing me that the nation will try to escape in its own strength. I was bargaining with death itself. The general represented death. These people were coming in to occupy, to destroy, to rule over. And yet I was turning towards this general that represents death and basically bargaining with him with what I had. I was a car dealership owner. So I was bargaining with worldly things. We're going to see South Africa, if the nation turns towards evil and chooses that, we're going to see the nation start bargaining. We're actually already seeing that. Start bargaining with Russia to try and escape. When the only way of prevention and escape is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. You know, this word is quite heavy for me because in contemplating it, and the scripture I'm going to read to you now, I realize there's so much at stake. I think we become so relaxed as believers and we think prophecy must just happen and be good. All right, we've heard a lot of good prophecy over this nation. And I realize that so much is at stake. That yes, God desires to lead us into the light. That is our destiny that He has for us through His Son, Jesus Christ. How many generations though? Think about this. How many generations have heard this? How much destiny has been revealed to how many hundreds, even thousands of generations before us in many parts of the world? Did they walk out their destiny? Look at Israel. Did Israel walk out the destiny that God had for them? Well, you can easily say, if you know your Bible, no, they didn't. They were supposed to be a light to the nations. All right, so the Lord gives me Lamentations 1. Please go and read it, the whole of Lamentations 1. But something struck me here as I read it, and I'm going to focus on that for now. Verse 9. This is about Jerusalem being destroyed. Now you know all the good prophecies about Jerusalem. You know that Jerusalem, God had plans for Jerusalem. God had plans for Israel. And yet here in verse 9, He says, her uncleanness, He is now bringing judgment upon her because of her sins. He says her uncleanness is in her skirts because she did not consider her destiny. Therefore, her collapse was awesome, and she had no comforters. Speaking about Jerusalem. That really struck me. Do we understand the weight of the destiny that God has given us as a nation? Are we turning towards Jesus? Watchmen, are you standing on the walls warning? Watchmen, are you praying? Intercessors, are you praying? Have you grown weary? Have you fallen into sleep? Are you sleeping? Are you slumbering? Or are you standing guard day and night over the walls of this nation? Are you praying? Prophets, what are you doing? Have you grown weary? Apostles, pastors, in that moment, if we do not discern the time and the season that this nation is in, we'll miss it. We'll miss what God has intended for us. And as we can see, it's gotten to the point where we are in serious trouble. We are in serious trouble. So I urge you, please go and pray. Go and pray for this nation. Do not cease to pray. Do not cease to make your voice heard on high. Pray that the heart of the nation will turn to the Lord with all of her might, all of her soul, all of her strength, that South Africa will become a God-fearing nation. Minister, share the gospel, do what you can to be the light. Do everything, South Africans, right now, that the Lord desires from us. Be deeply rooted in His word, be deeply rooted in prayer. We are in a critical place right now in our history. We have to make the right decisions, and we have to take heed of what is going on around us. All right. Blessings, everyone. Shalom.